In previous demos, we've looked at how to construct a basic online quiz, which is useful for doing things like ensuring that students have done readings and testing knowledge. In this video, we'll look at slightly more advanced techniques, specifically things you might want to employ if you're going to use Google Quizzes to create an online examination, or if you just want to spruce things up and make them look a little bit fancier. So specifically, we're going to look at how you will order questions within a Moodle quiz, how you might add images, how you can add videos, and how you can even add 3D figures that students can interact with. Here's a demonstration of what an online exam might actually look like. So for example, we might want to give a passage that students might want to read, or an image or a diagram. And then from there, we might want them to answer a set of questions specifically related to that particular question before moving on to a different suite of questions. So dividing up the information into categories like this is going to be a very useful skill. In addition, we may want to embed some fancier diagrams or images. So I've gone a little bit fancy here, and I've showed a couple of options. So right here we have a YouTube video which is embedded directly into Moodle itself, and the students can be watching this. So there'll be audio playing right now, but I haven't set it up so that audio is playing. On the bottom of this, I've shown you something even neater, which is embedding a 3D model directly within Moodle. This, as a geology instructor, is something which is particularly useful. It takes a little while to load here, but you can navigate around. The students could explore this, and then they could be prompted to ask questions down below. All right, so how do you do all of that? That probably looks pretty intimidating. It actually isn't. So we're going to start off with the simplest question, which is how do you go through and create a series of questions which are grouped together, forcing the students to answer them in one order, which is relative to whatever they are being examined on, a particular passage, particular image. So we're going to remember that we want to go back to our quizzes. And so I'm going to take you through exactly how to do this, just step by step. Imagine we were starting from scratch. So we're going to choose a quiz. We're going to create a new quiz. Once we've created the new quiz, I'm going to give it a name, new quiz. At this point, we would go through and we would choose things like timing. So for example, for an exam, we might want to set a time limit specifically on this. So let's say we want to give them 60 minutes to complete it. If you don't do this, they will have an unlimited amount of time to do it. And we may want to make sure that that when they go through it, they are forced to do it in order and not be able to navigate back to previous questions. So for example, you may want to ask them multiple choice questions at the beginning of the exam, and then later on utilize terminology that they have been prompted to give you earlier in the exam later on. So if you want to be able to utilize terminology later in the exam, but also actually require it earlier on, you might want to separate components and ensure they can't go back. And so if you do that, this is what you want to click, and you want to turn on sequential. So if you do that, they do not have the option of going back to their exam. Now in the real world situation, when you're taking an exam, usually you can go back to the beginning. So if you want to emulate what a real exam is like, where you can go back to the multiple choice, jump back and forwards between different components, then make sure you leave this to free. But I'm going to keep this on sequential right now. So I'm not going to fill out any of the rest of this. Some of our previous videos showed you how to utilize feedback and other elements here. So we're just going to save this and display this, because what I'm interested in right now is showing you how to add the questions and get them into the order you want. So this is where we're going to end up right now. There are no questions added. So if I click either Edit Quiz here, or I go up to Administration and choose Edit Quiz right here, it's going to prompt me to add questions. So I am now going to go to Add. Here's my Add Question button. I'm going to choose from question bank. Now, if I wanted to make new questions up as I went along, I could do it right here, but it's easier to already have them made. Now note, I am not choosing a random question because I want to keep them in a very specific order. So I will go through now. I will choose the category that has my questions embedded within it. And you'll see I've done something here to make it very easy, which is that when I created the questions, when I named the questions, I gave them a number corresponding to where I wanted to put them within my exam. Now, you don't have to do this, but it makes it considerably easier to sort this. So you can add them one at a time, or the easiest thing to do if you already have them in a category is just grab them all and add them all into your quiz. So now they're all into the quiz. And I note that I have my original passage right here. And this I have created as a special type of question, which is called a description. And so when you are in the question creation, the question bank, the creation option, the question bank, one of the options is a description. These don't have any values associated with them in terms of grade. They're just what you're going to use to provide an image, provide a video, or just provide a description or instructions within your exam. So you put as many of these as you want in, but you have to make each one up individually. So let's just go back, save changes. I haven't made any changes. So now I've got my questions and they are in a strange order. And also notice that each one is on its own page. So I want these 3 questions here to be in the correct order, but I also want them to be on one page and a separate page from my passage. So if I click on this link right here, this little icon, this is going to get rid of the page breaks, or if I wanted, I could add page breaks back. So I want these ones to be all in one. Now, this is my first question. This icon here allows you to pick it up and just drag the question. So I can just pick this up and I can drop it right at the top. And I can pick this one up and I can drop it right on the top. And now I have emulated exactly what I had before. So the students are given the initial reading. Then they are asked 3 questions in order. And at that point, if I added additional questions, so let's just do that. Let's add some additional questions. I could have them on a separate page. So let's say I go in here and I go add from question bank. Now I'm going to go into video example, and I'll put that video question in. So that was about watch the video of the Grand Canyon, and then I asked them to explain some questions about the Grand Canyon. So let's add those guys in. And now they are down here, so I want to put these guys together onto one page. So now they're going to be introduced to the reading, then they get this block of questions together, and then they're going to move on to these 2 questions together. And you can just keep adding on like this as you know. Now notice that I have a value of 5 points for this essay question right here. So you remember that when you are actually creating your question, you can change at any point as well by clicking this icon, but when you're creating your essay question, you have the option of assigning a default mark. So obviously if you have a question that is a short answer or an essay type question, you want to assign that a greater mark than you would to a longer question, or a shorter question. So this already has a value of 5 in here. Now here's a bit of a weird thing that Moodle does, and I don't know why Moodle does this. So notice that Moodle has added up the value of all the questions that you have assigned, and you've got a total marks, but also notice the maximum grade is set to 10. So Moodle does not translate the total marks up to the maximum grade. So you've got to actually go and just alter that in there and save it. I don't know why it does that, but that's what it does. So now my quiz is set up and it's ready to go. So let's go and take a look at how to make one of these questions with the embedded video. It's actually super easy. Let's quickly go through actually and take a look at my quizzes and make sure my new quiz actually works like I want it to work. So here's my new quiz. I'm going to open it up. I've got questions in there. Let's do a preview. Start attempt. It is a timed quiz. I have 1 hour. Absolutely. And so here we go. Get to the next page. Here are my 3 questions together and my next page. And there's my video embedded in the question below. Perfect. Everything is working exactly correctly. All right, let's go back and look at how to actually embed something like this video within a Moodle quiz. Now I'm going to note to you, I went too far back, I'm going to remind you that if you are designing these things for students to be able to use on their smartphones, these are things you may not want to do, because the fancier you make the questions, the more likely it is that you're actually going to run into some problems. So I'm just going to, I went to the wrong course here, but it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to go to my question bank. And I'm going to just create a brand new question. So let's just go into this default category, and I'll just create a new question. So I'm just putting it somewhere randomly just because I want to show you. So I'm going to put it into a description type question, because this is something that I might show them and then have them answer questions afterwards. But you can also actually build it directly into any of these other questions. You could build it into an essay, you could build it into whatever you want. Actually, you know what? Let's build it into an essay type question. All right, so here we go. We're going to add. So now I've got my question name, and let's call this question name Grand Canyon. Now this would be the point, remember, if I wanted to have them in order, I might put a number in there to make it easier to put them in the correct order. And then remember that you need a question text. I usually just cut and paste them identically. So this is Grand Canyon. I'd ask some question, blah, blah, question mark. So there's my question there. Okay, great. So what am I going to do now? Well, I want to put that video in there. So ordinarily, you cannot see all of this stuff right here. Now, this comes up as a default when you do the essay, but ordinarily you're not going to see all of this block right here. But you're always going to be able to see them within the question text category, except normally it looks like that. So the first thing you want to do is click this link, and this expands your options. And you can see within here you can do things like change font size, highlight things, lots of neat things. But what we want to do is we want to come right over here to this option of edit HTML source. Now this sounds scary, and I will tell you I am not a techie person. So if you actually wanted me to make HTML code from scratch, I can't do it. I can, on the other hand, and so can you embed this stuff. So let me show you. Let's go to YouTube. Here's my YouTube. If I just go down to YouTube and I choose this option right here of share, if I click on share, you're going to see what's going to pop up right here is an embed option. If I click that, I'm now going to get all of this fancy code right here. I'm just going to hit copy, or if you wanted, you could select it yourself and copy it. I'm going to go right back to my Moodle question, and I'm just going to drop this. I'm just going to hit Control V and put it right there. Now notice here is the question text I wrote, and there's the question text I wrote. So if I hadn't written that and I just dropped my HTML, I want to make sure on a separate line I've got my question text. So tell me about ... etc. Now I'm going to go update, and voila, there it is, embedded within my thing. Actually, I tell you about is on the wrong line. Let's jump that down. There we go. Perfect. So that's exactly what it's going to look like. Now, what if I didn't want to put a video in there, but I wanted to put a 3D model in there? Let's just get rid of this. We're just going to backspace this, and we are going to put a 3D model in that. How do you do that? Well, the coolest place to go is this website right here, Sketchfab. Sketchfab's a website where people voluntarily put up 3D models, the vast majority of which are free. So I'm a geologist, and we're talking about the Grand Canyon. So let's see what we've got for the Grand Canyon. If I look in here, you can see that some of these are models you have to pay for. So these are store models. Let's skip right on by those, and we're going to go to some of the free models. So this is a very pretty looking model right here. Let's pick that model. And now we are going to scroll down once this loads up. It takes a few moments. Once this loads up, we are going to scroll down slightly. Okay, there's my model, and I can look around, make sure I like it. Again, these take a second to render, and we are going to scroll down here, and there is our embed option. So you see right below the title and who made it, we've got embed. We're going to click that and scroll down slightly, and you're going to see all the scary text right here. But again, you don't even have to cut and paste this. You literally just click on it, click to copy. Now it's on my clipboard. Now I am going to go back to my editing option. I'm going to click this Edit HTML Source option again. Click that. This pops up. Make sure it's on a separate line. There he goes. All that information, which is very scary, and I most certainly could not type out myself. It's just pasted in. And boom. I can eliminate this extra space if I want. And there is my question. So I'm going to save changes, and let's take a look and make sure this worked out all right. My questions are saved. Now remember, we can just click this button to preview our question. And what is this going to look like to students? It's going to look like this. They're just going to hit play on it. It's going to take a second to load that 3D model. It's going to take a second. Let's make sure that. So there's my 3D model. Students can look around. They can zoom in on it. They can do whatever they want. And scrolling right down here, here is where they are going to answer their question. Blobbity, blobbity, blobbity. So this is really neat. So as a geologist, this is obviously useful to me, but you could do this as a historian, an archaeologist, or lots of objects you might want to show people. You might even just want to prompt them if you're a political scientist, or, if you are a, even an English major. Maybe you want to show them a picture of a first edition folio of something so they can interact with the text for a second, literally the text itself, the physical thing, and then answer some questions about, the work itself. So it's just a way of making them a little fancier, a little bit funner for the students to interact with. And there's a lot you can do this. All right, so what if we wanted to just ask about a image? So the image is both easier and slightly more complicated simultaneously, paradoxically, to add. So let's go through. I'm going to make a different one. I'm going to make a multiple choice this time. So I'm going to add multiple choice. So you remember we're going to have our question. We have to have both a name and a question text. I usually just put them as the same. So let's put something about, again, the Grand Canyon. How old, oops, scroll down. How old is the lowest layer in this image? Question mark. Okay, and then we're going to put this up here. Control, and just put that there. You can call it whatever you want. And again, if you wanted to put these in a specific order, you might want to put a numerical order in there, but I'm not going to. All right. So then I would put down my multiple choice questions, and I put the answers in here, and I'm just going to put random things in here too. I mean, these would obviously be years. So for all my different options, put my guys in there for etc. I have to choose one of them to be correct. I could give one of them partial marks if I wanted to. I'm not going to, but I could. I can add additional choices. I can give feedback if I want. All of that's been covered in other videos. So now I've got my basic stuff laid out. How do I add an image? So we're just going to drop down to a new line. We're going to go up and choose this icon right here, which is the insert image icon. And that's going to bring up this window. So if I had an image on my computer and I wanted to upload it from my desktop or from a hard drive, I'd choose this option. But there's actually a cooler way of doing it, which is image URL. This is really simple. So if you go on to somewhere like Wikipedia, all of the images that are shared on Wikipedia are licensed by Creative Commons, which means that you're allowed to use them for educational purposes. So if you want to feel good about using things with the correct copyright, come right in here. So I'm going to click on this little guy. So now I've got my image. What am I going to do with it? I'm just going to go up to the top, take that URL, copy and paste this URL, and I'm going to bring it down here, and I'm going to throw it right in there. And then, boom. Okay, now if I go insert, this is going to insert at the resolution of this image, which is going to be way too high. So what I want to do at this point is I want to quickly go over to where it says Appearance. Notice that the default is constrained proportions. So looking online, Moodle tells me, Moodle itself tells me that the maximum dimension should be 640 by 480 pixels. So I'm just going to go over here. I'm going to choose whichever is the, that didn't work for some reason. All right, why didn't you work? Constraint, I'm just going to put 640 in there. Let's see if this works. Ordinarily, it automatically sets the amount in there. Maybe it didn't work properly. Is this going to work? That did not work. Okay, let's try. This is in real time. You get to see the problems you can run into. I don't know. There's something about that image that didn't work for some reason. I don't know why that was. Let's try a different image. Let's see why that didn't work. You know, I literally did that image just a moment ago. This is the fun of doing this. Let's go copy image address. Let's see. Maybe it's just Moodle is being angry right now. So we go here and hit return. You sure you want to continue without including? Okay. All right. Nope. That is the giant size. So we do not want giant size. Let's go back and let us image URL. Appearance. There we go. Now they're filled in. I don't know why it wasn't doing it before, but just to show you, if you run into any problems, you know, just kick the computer and try again. So now I'm going to choose the biggest one. Remember, I want it to be 640 by 480. So I'm just going to change that right there, and it automatically changes it. That's within the maximum pixel size. Cool, no problem at all. Insert it. Okay, and boom, it's now in my document. Now let's see what it looks like. So we're going to go down. We are going to save changes. And there it is right there. So we will see what this question would look like. Let's just do a preview of it. Leave site. Yes, leave site. Do a preview of it. How old is the oldest layer in this image? And they've got their options. They can choose it right there. So perfect. So this is pretty straightforward. So the main thing to remember is that when you're creating a question, like a multiple choice, let's say I have my multiple choice, add my multiple choice. If you want to add images, you're going to go within the question text box. Once this loads, and click here, Most often, though, when you open this up, the full toolbar is hidden, and you've got to click this little paragraph, this toolbar toggle right here, and then choose the embed option right here. So the combination of these together is going to allow you to really spruce up your presentation. It's also going to allow you to structure and use Moodle quiz function to actually create real workable, functional, multiple choice, or not just multiple choice, exams that emulate the structure and the feel of an ordinary exam. And this is going to be good for you, but it's also going to be good for students because students are used to a particular structure when they write exams. And as we all try to move on to online teaching right now in these hectic times, we want to keep as much as possible everyone's comfort levels intact. All right, thank you once again for listening to this video.